Okay, awesome. Looks like we're live. Thank you everybody that's been waiting, and yeah, we've got a special one for you today. We have several members from the team and joining us, and they're going to be talking about the development behind the new surface thicken and offset tool, and just yeah, give you a chance to meet some of the team. I'm just going to go ahead and shoot it over to Gukchen to take it away. And so we've got a presentation for you, and then we'll be getting into some VR later. But yeah, if you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Gukchen, and maybe we can go around.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jaren. Yeah, I'm Gökçen, the lead designer at Gravity Sketch. I'm extremely excited to talk about our new feature, Thicken and Offset, today. Well, we're usually excited about our feature releases in general, but this one is one of the bigger ones because we believe that it's going to unlock so many new possibilities, and we're really excited to see what you're going to be making with it. Also, this has been requested for such a long time, so we're proud to be finally delivering that. Um, yeah, over to you, Matt.
Yeah, hello. My name is Matt, and I'm an interaction designer here at Gravity Sketch. And yeah, I'll be talking a little bit more about some of the prototyping and sort of mock-up stage. So a little bit later on, but yeah, great to be here.
Sorry, my camera's off. Hi, my name's Adam. I'm a software engineer at Gravity Sketch. I was sort of the main developer who worked on the offset and thicken tool, so I guess I'm going to be talking about some of the technical challenges and problems that we face while building it.
And I'm Austin. I am a footwear design consultant at Gravity Sketch, and I'm going to be demoing this feature for you in VR as I teach Jaren how to walk through it. And so you will see me a bit later with my headset on.
All right. Yeah, I think I'll start with talking a bit about what is it, what is this new feature, and we'll talk about how we developed it a bit, and then hopefully Matt will provide some more details on that. So, Thicken and Offset is now available if you've updated to the latest version. As you can see in the video, what you can do is you can go into the edit mode, toggle that little panel, and it's going to expand, and you will see arrows. So you can grab one of those handles, one of those arrow shaped handles, and they're going to work bidirectionally. So you can pull it upwards and downwards. And as you can see, you can now introduce thickness to that original surface. By default, it's going to be on thicken mode, but you can, using those buttons in the panel, you can change it to offset. And yeah, it's great that it's looping. I can now um, talk about the button. So you will see that right below the readout, the distance readout, you're going to see the switching buttons. And you can also, if you need to bake, if you want to be able to edit the new surface separately than the original one, this is going to be possible both for both for thicken and offset. But just remember that this is something that you cannot undo. Um, yeah, and then you can basically just erase the original one or keep it if you want. Um, this is how it works. But I also want to talk about like why we thought that this needs to exist, why this was an important thing that we needed to build in our software. Um, the reason actually is quite similar to our usual reason for all the other features. We basically listen to the community. We listened to the requests and complaints around this matter, and there were even, so now we're watching this cosmetic hack that we even created a video for before we had this thicken and offset capability. So what we used to showcase here is using the crease tool, you could kind of create this illusion of a material thickness. But now that we have this feature, users won't need to do this basically. And after we identified this as a solid need by listening to the community and observing the time it takes for our users to create surfaces with thickness, we wanted to go deeper into the problem area. How we do that usually is we start asking questions like, what kind of workflows require this kind of feature, and how do designers want to do it? We don't want to rely on the most basic way of doing things, but we want to understand whether a designer would like to create thickness at the beginning of their process, or would they rather introduce it in the edit mode? What kind of interaction suits best to this type of feature? So after we explore all these deeper questions, we move on to ideation, where we create our first drafts of UI and interaction models. So you will probably not notice it quite clearly, but yeah, maybe here you can see it. We actually heavily use Gravity Sketch in our ideation stage. We go into a sketch room and basically just create the scenario, create these sketches that would reenact how a designer will use this. And from that, we take screenshots and create a 2D board similar to this one that you're looking at right now, and then create clusters to visualize a problem area in a better manner. And once we do this, we also take a lot of notes, ask questions, continue asking questions at this point, and try to generate convictions around what solution feels closer to the ideal one. And from here, we move on to working on a bit more higher fidelity proposals, which is something Matt is going to talk more about now.
Yes. So during this process, we kind of intermix the usage of the 2D and 3D softwares. But when we decide to kind of move into this higher fidelity stage, as Gökçen was talking about, we really used Landing Pad Colab and GS to kind of create these mock-ups. Let me go ahead and play that. And so we created this sort of collaborative space where we could kind of demonstrate out these different ideas and sort of walk through a detailed flow of each different proposal for these concepts, and really looking at trying to explore the ergonomics of how this feature would work, sort of the visual feedback that would be necessary. And it also really helped to kind of identify those areas and maybe details that we had missed in thinking through this feature process. But it really did serve as sort of this like whiteboarding space for us to kind of collaborate and work together on this feature. And once we've kind of like defined these different flows and proposals, this helped kind of transition into actually a prototyping stage where we could start to actually get this in the hands of users and understand what this would be like to actually use. So for this prototyping stage, before I actually jump into this, I wanted to just give a shout out and a thanks to everybody that helped in actually testing this feature. Thanks Alexandra Hammerberg from High Five, to Finrush Taylor, as well as Robbie Stinchcombe and Arnau San Juan from Adidas, and Alejandro Lozano Robledo from the University of Cincinnati, and finally the fashion designer Amanda Howe. Thank you again for just helping us through this whole process and testing out these different features. But as for the actual prototyping process, we first started with this prototype of using a direct manipulation handles, like an arrow, similar to how we have in the primitives menu currently, to actually grab and pull and kind of shape this surface. And so in this prototype, this is what you can see the sort of our first round of this. And what we really want to understand is, like, overall, does this thicken feature actually improve the quality and speed at which people are able to develop their concepts out? Does this direct manipulation technique actually work? If people understand how to use this arrow and understand what it does? And is it appropriate to always have it present within the sketch? So right now, it's the arrows will always appear whenever you're editing a surface. And some of the things that we found was that actually, like, definitely it helped increase the speed and quality at which people were able to create. The direct manipulation, we actually found that when people would grab the arrow and pull it, they would say audibly, like, wow, this is cool. And they would be excited about actually being able to use this feature. But having the arrows always present was more of a frustration than it was actually helpful. And one of the other things that we had in this as well is, like, as you grab the arrow, you could flick the thumbstick to change thickness or offset. And it was too difficult for people to find that. So when we moved into the second stage of prototyping, we wanted to kind of solve some of these problems that arose and focus in on this idea of a tool metaphor, right? Similar to how we have the sub-D tools, we wanted to incorporate this into the sub-D edit menu. And so with this, we also created a gizmo that you would pop up in the scene that you could kind of visualize the different options that you have. And what we found in this prototype was actually that the cursor was a little confusing, and it was hard to understand what this cursor would do, especially when you had already thickened a surface. It was difficult to determine like what you would do next with it. And having this tool sort of serve two purposes, is both starting a thickened surface and editing it, was a little difficult to understand. But we found that this gizmo is actually really helpful in being able to communicate the visuals and the options that were available with the offset and thicken. So it's something that you can actually see in the release that we have now, that the same sort of formatting of that panel. But yeah, I mean, when in the actual prototyping phase, like we took both of these elements that worked in both of these different studies and really used that to help kind of inform the full like productized version of this feature. But now I'd like to hand it over to Jordan and Adam to talk a little bit about the technical journey that they had in sort of creating this feature.
Yeah, so thanks, Matt. Yeah, I guess the one of the most challenging things was like integrating it with other parts of the application. So like building the basic offset element to like a proof of concept stage was like really quick. I think it took us like less than a week to do that, but making it work with everything else, like collaboration, the mirror exporting to different file types, was like really challenging and time consuming actually, which is why it's taken us such a long time to get this out there.
Yeah, and another technical challenge, especially at the prototyping stage, was that offset surface is not just about moving a surface. You have to move each vertex in different directions that depend on the whole geometry of the object, and there are many ways to do this. So we had to do research on how the other applications handled that and reverse engineering the way it was done so that we could do it in a way that hopefully makes sense for every designer that is used to other tools like Rhino or Blender or whatever. So that was also a technical concern at that stage.
Yeah, and in terms of the most interesting problems we had to solve, definitely getting it to work with collaboration was, yeah, the most interesting problem and something we had to think about right from the very beginning. The main thing is we have to be careful about how much data we send over the network. So we had to design the system in such a way that we're only actually sending the offset distance when that changes, and all of the calculations are being performed on like each individual client's machine, like simultaneously.
Another interesting problem with the offset and thicken surface is that we wanted the user to be able to continue editing the base surface and in the ways that Gravity Sketch allows, like turning on mirroring, extruding faces, creating them or deleting them, and that needed to be reflected in the offset and thicken surface at the same time. So we had to find a way to sync them together. That was also, one of the more interesting problems in the creation of that tool.
Sweet. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and hand this off to Austin and Jaren and actually do a demo of what this feature can do and some of the workflows that Austin has found actually using the thicken. So I'll hand it off to you guys now.
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you guys.
I'm going in.
All right. I'm going to transition the feed. I'll just present so you guys can, in the call, can see as well.
Let me know when you're ready, Darren.
We are good to go.
Okay, So you can see in here, I have a couple different things. I am going to be a little footwear specific in this demo because those are the models that I had as a footwear design consultant. But these tools can be useful for so many different things, especially when it comes to industrial design, furniture design, anything really. So the first step I'm going to show you is just on a simple surface, very similar to what you saw in the videos that we were showing in the presentation, but I'm going to do it live here so you can see a little bit about each step. So there's a couple options that you can take with this tool, as we kind of spoke to. You can see my UI, right, Darren?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm first going to make sure that this surface is sub D. The thicken offset will only work with a sub D surface. Then you will see there's this thicken offset tool that pops up. All you have to do is toggle that on and you get a menu of a couple options here. The first one is thicken. The one on the right is offset. And then the bottom option is the bake for whichever thicken or offset that you're in. So I'll start with offset actually and show you just how that works right away. So I offset this piece and you can see as I move it, also as I edit it, that if I move the original surface, that offset stays exactly the same with the original mesh surface. It manipulates and moves together with the mesh that your original mesh. But if you bake the offset, this then creates two totally separate surfaces, and you can then change the color and manipulate them separately. You can see here, I did a little push and pull. The next option that we have is thicken, which is my personal favorite. Again, you have to make sure you're in sub D. And then you pull these handles to thicken in whichever direction you'd like, same as offset, but instead it will create walls around the sides so that it's a thickened surface. Now, without baking this, you can see that these edges are hard and that it looks more like what a material would look like if you cut it with scissors or something like that. And if you want these hard edges to maintain, this is a really great way just to keep it unbaked. And again, like with offset, every time you manipulate this surface, the thicken will manipulate with it as long as you have not baked the surface. However, if you do want to bake, you can do that. And all you have to do is hit this bake thicken button. And what it will do is create a sub D object that is thickened off of and then it'll give you your original mesh back as well in case you need it later. Since once you've baked the feature, there isn't a way to unbake it. So I'm just going to move this surface away and show you kind of how you can manipulate this original by pulling the points, adding points. You can then start like extruding faces, kind of whatever you want with it now that it's been baked. So that is fully manipulatable. But again, because it's turned into a sub D object, it'll have these much softer sides and edges that are native to the sub D type of geometry. And if you want those hard edges back, all you really have to do is create an edge loop really close to the other edge, and it'll kind of bring that harder edge back on that as well. So the next fun thing that I'm going to show you is actually a demo on how I would do this on an actual model. So this is a sandal that I made, and right now you can see that all of these upper pieces are just they're flat surfaces. They're very thin paper like things, and it doesn't really look like a real shoe because of that. And so if I want to add thickness to one of these, I'm just going to go through the same steps that I just showed you. And I might say, oh, well, this is webbing. So webbing's probably around like 2.5 millimeters wide. I go ahead and add that and say, okay. And now I have a thickened webbing right away. Very, very wonderful. Super exciting. And you can go ahead and just do that on the entire upper
Or I'm going to show you one other really exciting way to go about thicken. And for this, I'm actually going to go flip myself around to the bottom of the shoe. So Jaron, if you want to follow me, there we go. So this is a tread pattern that I did that is just flat surfaces right now. I'm going to decide that I'm going to use thicken surface to create these treads as lugs. So I can just kind of take this and make it as thick as I want and say, and I'm going to decide too that like, I don't want those hard edges. I want this to be kind of like a bubbly tread. So I'm going to bake it, and it comes up with this little like noodle shape that, you know, I really love. So I'm going to take that and bring it down a little bit into the upper or into the midsole, I guess. And right away, I've got this like pretty cool looking noodle guy. And I can do that again with all of these surfaces if I want. And it will automatically thicken those. And then I would just have to bake it if I want it to be the noodle shape again. So that's a really cool way of making lugs. You can also keep it with the hard edges if you want, without baking, if you like the more hard edged look. So that's pretty sweet. I might also take you over here to where I have a last. So this last shape is just our base last, nothing special about it. And I am going to, hold on one second. I just need to turn on my layers to make sure that this is editable. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna offset this last piece and make an upper from it. So I'm gonna go to the offset tool. I'm gonna pull these arrows to offset it, you know, only like 1.5 millimeters off the last. And then I'm gonna accept that. And I'm going to take this piece and bring it onto a different layer so that I can lock the last again. Okay, so now I should have, I'm going to change the color of this to green or something so it's really noticeable. And then you can just start deleting pieces off of this last and pull points to where you want around the upper to kind of where you had envisioned this being. And this is like a perfect way of creating an upper material that is offset exactly from the last that you wanted. I actually forgot to bake this, which is why the last disappeared. So always remember to bake if you want 2 separate pieces. And this is, I'm going to turn sub D on so it looks a little bit less crazy, but I'm going to show you really quick without going through the whole time of moving all of my edit points. I'm going to show you really quick how you can actually offset this again, this piece, and I'm going to offset it a little bit more so you can then see, and I'm going to bake it and then make this a separate color. So now if you want, you can edit pieces and delete pieces that create, like, I can just make my toe cap directly off of this and it will have the exact same toe shape that my last had because it was offset directly off of my last. So that's pretty cool. And you can decide, you know, how you want your toe shape to look. But now I have a piece that is set off my last, and I'm going to just go ahead and delete this line. Now I can decide to thicken this as well and bring this down into the last piece. So now that actually looks like a thickened piece that is separate from the last. It's definitely bumped out too high for like what a normal toe cap would be, but it's pretty cool looking once you get it to be exactly what you're looking for. So it's just a really cool way to be able to offset off of pieces you've already made and make them line up exactly without having to create a ribbon surface or something and estimate how close you are to the surface below it.
Thanks so much, Austin, for that demo. It's really, really such a cool tool. The bunch of comments are just like, "Wow, this is awesome!" You know, loving this. Someone even at the beginning was like, "I hopped out of Gravity Sketch VR to watch this live session, and they were just using the thicken tool." So that's awesome. People are already out there experimenting with it. If you could answer, if you know the answer to this, how does a thickened surface export out of Gravity Sketch? Maybe if it's baked or if it's unbaked.
So what's really cool is the thickened surface will export exactly as you have it in Gravity Sketch as a full mesh. So this unbaked surface here will export looking exactly like this with these hard edges. And this baked surface will export exactly like this with these, you know, with the more sub D edge surfaces. So it's hopefully going to be exactly as you expect when you export, because it will look exactly as it does in Gravity Sketch. And they will be full pieces. They won't be like a bunch of separate surfaces or anything like that.
That's super cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody has any more questions about the tool, yeah, just post it in the chat. I'm monitoring that right now in VR, so ask away. There was a question earlier. I think this is probably more for the development team. How long? What was the time period between actually green lighting and deciding that you guys were going to build this tool all the way to actually releasing it in the latest update? What was that timeline like?
Who wants to take that? I can. I can try to give an answer. I think it took about 4 months, but not. The team hasn't been working on this only. Does that sound right, Adam? Maybe you know a bit more.
Yeah, I think it was sort of the middle of the summer when we started developing it. But yeah, we made the first couple of prototypes quite quickly, and then I think we went off and worked on some other projects. So that's why it took longer than initially expected.
Yeah, and I think something just to add on to that and that definitely does not represent the development time for every feature, because every feature is unique, right? Am I right in saying that it kind of just depends on what exactly is being built as far as how long it takes?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely different features take different amounts of time, and it's hard to estimate that at the start. And also, yeah, it depends on the priorities of the business and other projects that we have to work on in conjunction with this one.
What ultimately was the reason that the team decided to build this feature, build this tool? What was the ultimate catalyst for that?
We've basically seen that the users were spending a lot of time on creating thickness, and there was basically no way to create offset at all. We've noticed that if we've built this feature much early on, designers can experiment introducing material thickness and create offset, and just like how Austin demonstrated, create different surfaces from like one template, such as shoe last. So we were quite convinced that this could be a game changer for a lot of designers.
Awesome. Yeah, this is probably one of the big ones for sure. I mean, I'm hearing from the community all the time on features, and this has definitely been one of the big ones, and so people are really excited about it. The Something I want to just reiterate is we're continuing to improve always on features in Gravity Sketch. So everybody out there listening and watching, please go just try it out and use it, and give us your feedback. We're always looking to improve. So this, that definitely isn't the final form. Many things in Gravity Sketch have taken an evolution. So yeah, get out there, try it, and use it. If there's features or something that you just think needs to be added to it, or not, we would love to hear it. I think Greg Johnson is asking, is there a way to put a draft on the sides? No tapering, the extrusion in or out slightly. There isn't, but yeah, curious to know what your workflow would be for that. Why you would love to have that.
I will say right now the workaround for that is easily just baking it and then using the edge to do what you want. Like, you can pretty easily manipulate the edge once it's baked as a sub D object, but it is something we've heard from a couple people already too, that something they were hoping for. So like, for example, it would thicken here and bake, then you can kind of take this edge and do what you want with it. So you can make it a little bit, you can turn on the entire edge loop and like pull sections out and stuff like that as well. And manipulate the edge kind of however you would like.
Awesome. Yeah. There's, I think a lot of the stuff that people ask for as far as editing sub D, it's, if it's not there in a tool, the workaround is usually just doing it by hand, is what I've seen. And so, but if there's a big enough reason to add that as a tool, let us know. We're interested in that, and in hearing the use cases for that. Let's see. Sweet. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions out there. There's one other question, I guess. Do you have any plans to increase selection options of vertices? There are plans for that. There's some exploration around that. So, yeah, I want to just also briefly touch. We're using Colab right now, which is also available to everyone. Another big thing we released. So, get in there, find friends that have Gravity Sketch, or if they don't, show them what's possible, and yeah, get together in VR and start working together. You can now do it yourself. So, yeah, are there any other things that maybe you wanted to touch on the development side of the tool? Anything maybe you want to tease that might be coming down the pipeline? Something we can expect. If not, that's totally okay. Yeah. Let's see, I'm reading this last thing here. Cool. Well, thank you everybody that's been watching, and if you joined a little bit late, this video will be available as soon as the live is over. And if you're watching right now, you can just go ahead and rewind it. It should start at the very beginning. But yeah, we just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into the development of this new feature, and thank you all out there for giving your feedback. And this comes directly from the community, this feature, and so Gravity Sketch is largely informed by, almost exclusively informed by the community and professional users. So you are building this tool by sharing your thoughts and your feedback and your dreams. So really appreciate all of you, and also huge thanks to the development team for the obviously the amazing work and research that they did that went into creating this and making it work. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us here.
Thank you.
Awesome. See you all. Thank you. Bye.